In this video, we're going to learn about the quadratic formula. Now, in order to use the quadratic formula, you need to know what it is. So please write this formula down. It's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, please make sure that your fraction bar goes all the way across that under that entire numerator. I see a lot of people making that mistake of doing b squared minus 4ac and just putting that square root over 2a. Make sure your 2a is also being divided by your negative b. Okay, it's really important. Now, if you are really bad at remembering things and this looks really complicated, if you search around on YouTube and you look up quadratic formula songs, there are tons of songs out there that can help you remember the quadratic formula. Tons like poppy kind of current songs, not just that kind of old Pop Goes the Weasel one. There are tons and tons of songs out there to help you remember the quadratic formula. Now, before we actually go ahead and solve problems, let's go ahead and look at something that's called the discriminant. Now, what the discriminant does is it kind of makes life a lot easier for you because, as we talked about in the previous videos, you might have one solution where your vertex is on the x-axis. You might have two solutions where you're going to have that parabola going all the way through the x-axis and coming back around and touching that x-axis at 2 points. Or you might have no solutions where your parabola isn't touching your x-axis at all. So let's go ahead. This discriminant is part of the quadratic formula, and it makes life way easy because it helps you tell how many solutions you're actually going to have before using the entire quadratic formula. So what we're going to be using is we're just going to be using the b squared minus 4ac. Now, if it's greater than 0, meaning it's positive, and I totally messed up here. You don't actually need the square root. We're just looking for what's underneath the radical. So if just b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, so you solve that, and it's bigger than 0, you are going to have two solutions. Meaning you can actually take the square root and you're going to get, plus and minus 2 or something like that. Now, if b squared minus 4ac, and I forgot my c when I went back on that one, is equal to 0, you're going to have one solution, because if you take the square root of 0, well, negative b plus 0 or negative b minus 0, either way you're going to get the same value, in which case you're only going to have one answer. You're not going to have two differing answers. And finally, hopefully you guys can guess it, negative b minus 4ac is less than 0, meaning it's negative. You're going to have no solution. Okay, so now that we've talked about the quadratic formula, we've looked at the discriminant, let's try some example problems. So for our first example, we're going to go ahead and solve using the quadratic formula, and we're going to use x squared plus 6x minus 10. Now, with most things, please keep in mind we're using that formula, let's try that one more time. I can't talk on this video very well. We've got ax squared plus bx plus c. And I tell all my students, you want to make sure that you always find that a, b, and c first, because pretty much any quadratic formula is going to help you. Because a is always going to tell us if it's opening up or opening down, so why not look for it? And it's really, really easy to find these values. So we're going to get a, our coefficient on x squared, so that's 1, b is 6, and c is negative 10. So let's go ahead and plug it into our equation. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And yes, that takes quite a big breath to say all at once. So we have negative b, so we have negative 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's going to give us 36 minus 4 times 1 times 10 all over 2 times 1. Well, if you kind of look at it, you can already see how many solutions we're going to have. So we're going to get negative 6, but we're going to work through it just a little bit more. Plus or minus, well, we have 36 minus, but I accidentally dropped my negative over here on my c, so we got minus, and then we have a negative 10, negative 40 all over 2. So we get negative 6 plus or minus, so this is going to change to plus a positive, so it's going to give us square root of 76 all over 2. Now, you can definitely simplify it from here depending on how your teacher wants it for this particular problem. I don't want to spend a ton of time simplifying radicals. You can go back and watch another video for that. What I really want to concentrate is can you substitute your values into the quadratic formula, and do you understand how to manipulate those values? Especially understanding that negative b, if b were negative, you'd actually put a positive number there. So let's go ahead and look at one where we have a negative there out there in front. So our next example, negative x squared plus 4x minus 16. So again, identify your a, so negative 1, b is 4, and c is negative 16. And we're going to get some rather large numbers here, but we'll be able to work it out. So x equals, negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 16, minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 16, all over 2 times negative 1. So let's see, negative 4 square root of 16, and then 16 times 4. So minus, let's see, minus, and then we have a negative times a negative, so it's going to be a positive. We're going to get 64, and I forgot my plus or minus, all over negative 2. Well, if you notice, we're going to get 16 minus 64 here, which is actually going to give us a negative value, which means we're actually going to have no solution here. I like writing the 0 with the slash, but if you write it out, just no solution. Okay, so always look for the discriminant. Yeah, I could have kept solving, but I can automatically tell that because I know 16 minus 64 is going to give me that no solution. So we're only going to do 2 examples for this video. Hopefully this helps you out with a basic understanding of quadratic formula. I'll go ahead and add some more later.